sixth day of 8 a.m. 18 days Bhagavad Gita reading spree, and I am continuing to read from this book, which is Bhagavad Gita, Song of God by Swami Mukundanand. So the chapter 6 is called Dhyan Yoga, which is the yoga of meditation. In this chapter, Sri Krishna continues the comparative evaluation of Karma Yoga and Karma Sannyas from chapter 5 and recommends the former. When we perform work in devotion, it purifies the mind and deepens our spiritual realization. Then when the mind becomes tranquil, meditation becomes the primary means of elevation. Through meditation, yogis strive to conquer their mind. For while the untrained mind is the worst enemy, the trained mind is the best friend. Sri Krishna cautions Arjuna that one cannot attain success on the spiritual path by engaging in severe austerities, and hence one must be temperate in eating, work, recreation, and sleep. He then explains the sadhana for uniting the mind with God, such as a lamp in a windless place does not flicker. Likewise, the sadhak must hold the mind steady in meditation. The mind is indeed difficult to restrain, but by practice and detachment, it can be controlled. So, wherever it wanders, one should bring it back and continually focus it upon God. When the mind gets purified, it becomes established in transcendence. In that joyous state called samadhi, one experiences boundless divine bliss. Arjuna then questions Sri Krishna about the fate of the aspirant who begins on the path but is unable to reach the goal due to an unsteady mind. Sri Krishna reassures him that one who strives for God realization is never overcome by evil. God always keeps account of our spiritual merits accumulated in previous lives and reawakens that wisdom in future births, so that we may continue the journey from where we had left off. With the accrued merits of many past lives, yogis are able to reach God in their present life itself. The chapter concludes with a declaration that the yogi, which is one who strives to unite with God, is superior to the tapasvi, which is ascetic, the jnani, person of learning, and the karmi, which is a ritualistic performer. And amongst all yogis, one who engages in bhakti, which is loving devotion of God, is the highest of all. So that is the summary of chapter 6. Now we are starting from the verse number 1. The Supreme Lord said, "Those who perform prescribed duties without desiring the results of their actions are actual sannyasis, renunciates, and yogis, not those who have merely ceased performing sacrifices such as Agnihotra Yajna or abandoned bodily activities. What is known as sannyas is none different from yoga, for none become yogis without renouncing worldly desires. To the soul who is aspiring for perfection in yoga, work without attachment is said to be the means. To the sage who is already elevated in yoga, tranquility in meditation is said to be the means. When one is neither attached to the sense objects nor to the actions, that person is said to be the elevated in the science of yoga, for having renounced all desires for the fruit of actions. Elevate yourself through the power of your mind and not degrade yourself, for the mind can be the friend and also the enemy of the self. For those who have conquered the mind, it is their best friend. But for those who have failed to do so, the mind works like the worst enemy. The yogis who have conquered the mind rise above the dualities of cold and heat, joy and sorrow, honor and dishonor. Such yogis remain peaceful and steadfast in their devotion to God. The yogi who are satisfied by knowledge and discrimination and have conquered their senses remain undisturbed in all circumstances. They see everything dirt, stone, and gold as the same. The yogis look upon all well-wishers, friends, foes, and pious, and the sinners with an impartial intellect. The yogi who is of equal intellect towards friend, companion, and foe, neutral among enemies and relatives, and impartial between the righteous and sinful, is considered to be distinguished among humans. Those who seek the state of yoga should reside in seclusion, constantly engaged in meditation with a controlled mind and body, getting rid of desires and possessions of enjoyment. To practice yoga, one should make an asana in a sanctified place by placing bush grass, deer skin, and a cloth one over the other. The asana should be neither too high nor too low. Seated firmly on it, your yogi should strive to purify the mind by focusing it in meditation with one pointed concentration, controlling all thoughts and activities. He must hold the body, neck, and head firmly in a straight line and gaze at the tip of the nose without allowing the eyes to wander. Thus, with a serene, fearless, and unwavering mind, and staunch in the vow of celibacy, the vigilant yogi should meditate on me, having me alone as the supreme goal. Thus, constantly keeping the mind absorbed in me, the yogi of disciplined mind attains nirvana and abides in me in supreme peace. O Arjun, those who eat too much or eat too little, sleep too much or too little cannot attain success in yoga. But those who are temperate in eating and recreation, balanced in work, and regulated in sleep can mitigate all sorrows by practicing yoga. With thorough discipline, they learn to withdraw the mind from selfish cravings and rivet it on the unsurpassable God of the self. Such persons are said to be in yoga and are free from all yearnings of the senses. Just as a lamp in a windless place does not flicker, so the disciplined mind of a yogi remains steady in meditation on the self. When the mind restrained from material activities becomes still by the practice of yoga, then the yogi is able to behold the soul through the purified mind, and he rejoices in the inner joy. In that joyous state of yoga called samadhi, one experiences supreme boundless divine bliss, and thus situated, one never deviates from the eternal truth. Having gained that state, one does not consider any attainment to be greater. Being thus established, one is not shaken even in the midst of the greatest calamity. That state of severance from union with misery is known as yoga. This yoga should be resolutely practiced with determination, free from pessimism. Completely renouncing all desires arising from the thoughts of the world, one should restrain the senses from all sides with the mind, slowly and steadily. With conviction in the intellect, the mind will become fixed in God alone and will think of nothing else. Whenever and wherever the restless and unsteady mind wanders, one should bring it back and continually focus it on God. Great transcendental happiness comes to the yogi whose mind is calm, whose passions are subdued, who is without sin, and who sees everything in connection with God. The self-controlled yogi, thus uniting the self with God, becomes free from material contamination, and being in constant touch with the Supreme achieves the highest state of perfect happiness. The true yogis, uniting their consciousness with God, see with equal eye all living beings in God and God in all living beings. For those who see me everywhere and see all things in me, I am never lost, nor are they ever lost to me. The yogi who is established in union with me and worships me as the Supreme Soul residing in all beings dwells only in me, though engaged in all kinds of activities. I regard them to be perfect yogis who see the true equality of all living beings and respond to the joys and sorrows of others as if they were their own. Arjun said, the system of yoga that you have described, O Madhusudan, appears impractical and unattainable to me due to the restless mind. The mind is very restless, turbulent, strong, and obstinate. O Krishna, it appears to me that it is more difficult to control than the wind. Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, what you say is correct. The mind is indeed very difficult to restrain, but by practice and detachment, it can be controlled. Yoga is difficult to attain for one whose mind is unbridled. However, those who have learned to control the mind and who strive earnestly by the proper means can attain perfection in yoga. This is my opinion. Arjun said, what is the fate of the unsuccessful yogi who begins the path with faith, but who does not endeavor sufficiently due to unsteady mind and is unable to reach the goal of yoga in this life? Doesn't such a person who deviates from yoga get deprived of both material and spiritual success? O mighty armed Krishna, and perish like a broken cloud with no position in either sphere. O Krishna, please dispel this doubt of mine completely, for who other than you can do so? The Supreme Lord said, O Parth, one who engages on the spiritual path does not meet with destruction either in this world or the world to come. My dear friend, one who strives for God realization is never overcome by evil. The unsuccessful yogis upon death go to the abodes of the virtuous. After dwelling there for many ages, they are again reborn in the earth plane into a family of pious and prosperous people. Else, if they had developed dispassion due to long practice of yoga, they are born into a family endowed with divine wisdom. Such a birth is very difficult to attain in this world. On taking such a birth, O descendant of Kurus, they reawaken the wisdom of their previous lives and strive even harder towards perfection in yoga. Indeed, they feel drawn towards God even against their will on the strength of their past discipline. Such seekers naturally rise above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. With the accumulated merits of many past births, when these yogis engage in sincere endeavor in making further progress, they become purified from material desires and attain perfection in this life itself. A yogi is superior to tapasvi, which is ascetic, which is superior to jnani, which is a person of learning, which is even superior to the karmi, which is ritualistic performer. Therefore, O Arjun, strive to be a yogi. Of all yogis, those whose minds are always absorbed in me and who engage in devotion to me with great faith, them I consider to be the highest of all. So that finishes chapter 6. Come again tomorrow, 8 a.m. Singapore time, and we will do chapter 7 together. From chapter 7, the Bhakti Yoga starts, because the first chapter comes under the Karma Yoga. Next 6 chapters will be the Bhakti Yoga, and the final 8 chapters will be Jnana Yoga. Thank you.